What's up, vinyl community? It's your boy Chris coming at you live, as always, from the man cave. Been a few days since I did a video, and I got a few things I want to talk to you guys about today. So, for those of you who follow, subscribe to my boy Noble Records, which is, I don't know, all of you. And if you subscribe to me, you certainly subscribe to him. There's no doubt about it. So, if you subscribe and follow along on Instagram as well, you probably potentially saw Instagram live video that we did on our way to the record buy, all live and full of hope, and just knowing we were going to get Dillon's shop stocked up for months to come. And you probably saw the ensuing YouTube video on a Noble Records channel on the way back. For those of you who didn't, I will proceed as if you didn't. So anyway, it was about, let's call it a week or two ago. And you know, I had found out that Dillon was going to offer was going to open his brick and mortar shop October 5th. October 5th, October 5th, October 5th. It's not the last time you'll hear me say that before. October 5th. Be there or be square. Anyway, he had, you know, told me that, and, you know, not too long later had told me that he was getting ready to go look at, you know, potentially 20,000 records in my neck of the woods. Which, my neck of the woods is a little town called Liberty, South Carolina. Blink and you'll miss it, and you wish you had. Sorry. It's in my state. I love my state. You guys know I'm a proud South Carolinian, but that town sucks. If you live in Liberty, South Carolina, I apologize. But anyway, so immediately I'd never heard of the town. I've lived in South Carolina all 34 of my years. I've never heard of the town. So I told Dillon, I was like, you know, if you do it on Monday or Tuesday, which was, you know, yesterday or today, those are the days I have off for the week. I'm down. I'll go with you, bro. You know, I have a, you know, pickup truck big enough to, you know, carry that many if need be, and, you know, borrow a trailer from his old man. But anyway, so my wife Googles it to find out. She's like, okay, it's like an hour outside of Greenville. Greenville's a really neat place. But anyway. So, the events of the day are epic. So, I told Dillon, yeah, the truck's ready to go. I got my hitch. So, I go find my Reese hitch. For those of you who don't have pickup trucks and aren't familiar, it's just essentially a ball that goes on the back of your pickup truck so that you can tow trailers and whatnot. Necessary. Absolutely essential if you're going to tow a trailer. So, anyway, like, yeah, man, I got it. So, I had taken it off my truck a while back because I hadn't used it in a little while. And I go in the room where it's supposed to be, and I grab it, and okay, I don't have the clip. I don't have the pin to keep it in place. So I'm like, oh man, that could be a problem. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm positive my dad's got that. Like, okay. So evidently I must have still forgotten to take the hitch out of the back of the truck, because the next morning, get up, go gas up, everything like that. Off the phone with them, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm on my way up. Just filled up, on my way up. Walk around the truck to give it a once over like I do every time I fill up for gas, and notice that the hitch isn't there. The ball's not there. Oh shit. So I drive back home thinking, okay, well, I must have taken it back in the house, except I don't remember taking it back in the house. I drive back to the house, go in the house. No, I didn't take it back in the house. Which means my dumbass, for as many years as I've driven a pickup truck, as long as I've been a country boy, which is forever, I forgot to pull that hitch back out. And if you don't have a clip in it, it's coming out. The first bump you hit is coming out. Maybe the first time you back up is coming out. But anyway, so there's a nice fancy Reese hitch of mine somewhere on the roads in the small town in South Carolina I live in. Anyway, touche. So I called Dillon up and said, dude, we got a freaking problem. I don't have my hitch. I don't have the ball at all now. I know you said your dad had a clip, but I don't have a ball at all now. And he's like, okay, well, let me call my dad. Pretty sure my dad's got that too. So he calls his dad, and his dad has it. Like, okay, great. You know, we'll borrow it from him. So I come all the way up. Dillon lives an hour from me. Front door to front door, hour from me. But now, because it put me behind going backtracking to go back to my house to check for my Reese hitch, now I'm an hour behind a schedule. Now I'm driving into rush hour traffic. And for any of you who've ever driven through Charlotte, North Carolina during rush hour traffic, you don't move fast. We ended up hitting it twice yesterday. To and from. Anyway, I digress. So it ends up taking me like an hour and a half to get there. Get there, got to meet Dillon's dad for the first time. Super nice guy. Obviously, I mean, takes a super cool guy to make a super cool guy like Dillon. But anyway, we borrowed his horse trailer. His horse trailer, because that's what he had a horse trailer. And so we got a trailer that's been accustomed to toting horses to and from to load what we're hoping to be 20,000 records. So Dillon had talked to the guy on the phone for an hour and a half, and you know everything. You know, the guy had made it abundantly clear he had 20,000 records and they were all great. You're gonna love all this stuff. Had Dillon's hopes up real high. You know, Dillon's been doing this stuff for a long time, so whatever line of bull he was pitching, he was consistent enough with it for Dillon to buy it. Which it happens. You win some, you lose some. Anyway, so we drive all the way out to Liberty. We get there and park the horse trailer on the side of the road, and immediately we walk up to the house, and my first thought is this doesn't look promising. And I'll tell you why. And it's going to sound terrible. I don't like to judge a book by its cover, but the house has got junk all out in the yard. You go up on the guy's front porch. He's got turntables and receivers that are broken sitting on the front porch by the door. He's not having a yard sale. This was clearly just day to day. You look at the turntables, no needles. You look at the amps, clearly not in working condition. And I'm not talking about one or two, guys. I'm talking about 6 or 7 stacked up on top of some other stuff. So immediately my first thought is this doesn't look promising at all. But I'm like, okay, well maybe he's one of those guys that, you know, doesn't care about a lot of other stuff, but, you know, takes, you know, immaculate care of his records. I've met those people. You know, house looks like shit, record collection and equipment looks great. I've met them. This was a little bit more than what I'd been accustomed to seeing in terms of that, but anyway. So there will be pictures and whatnot in this video too during the final edit. So we go in. The guy tells us, you know, he meets his handshake. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy. And that's not a reply. He's not, guys, by the way. He goes, okay, all the records are in these 2 rooms. And he walks us in one room. And said, okay, that's probably 4,000 or 5,000 records. And I'm like, so the other room must really have some records. He walks in the other room. It's messier and also about 4,000 or 5,000 records. So, you know, guys like Dillon and I have been looking at records long enough to know how many records are going in a box and how many records are going in a cube on a shelf, like that, for example. So we just start, both of us, I can tell. I know what he's doing. He's counting, I'm counting. Okay, so we go to the other room. In my head, I'm thinking 7,500, maybe 8,000 is what I'm thinking. And so Dillon gets through and he walks to the guy. He's like, hey, man, you know, you said 20,000. You know, this is more like 10,000. And even when Dillon said 10,000, he was clearly just being polite. 8,500 tops. And but you know, Dillon kind of looks at me like, you know, you know what, you know, maybe still worth it if everything's as good as what he says it is. You know, maybe we can negotiate a deal here. So I go in the room. We got a bunch of boxes in the floor. I decide to take the boxes in the floor. I'm like, I tell you what, I'll start with the boxes in the floor if you'll hit the shelves, and we'll just meet in the middle. So we're going through them. First box I go through, 12-inch hip-hop singles. They ain't worth shit. And I'm not talking about 12-inch good hip-hop. I'm not talking, there wasn't no Big Papa in there, you know. There was no Tupac hip-hop single. There was no Jay-Z in there. This was a bunch of not great hip-hop 12-inch singles. You'd be lucky to sell that entire box, that first box, for $3, and you better sell it to a damn DJ. The second box, all 12-inch hip-hop singles. All right, this is not looking good. Third box, all 12-inch hip-hop singles. So I'm thinking, I've decided, like, okay, I'm not going to say it out loud yet. But, you know, Dillon's over there still looking away. I can tell, though. He hadn't said anything, so it's like I don't think he's finding anything too promising either. Get to the fourth box, and the first thing that's sitting in front is a Metallica Master of Puppets. Okay, but I'm like, that looks a little too clean to be an original. He had told Dillon he had all Metallica original pressings. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's the first one, but that just looks too clean. And then you pull it out, and it's got the remastered label on it. And I know immediately it's like a 2016 or 2017 repress. So I turned around and looked at Dillon, and I said, I hope they're not all this way. And he's like, what? And I said, this Metallica Master of Puppets reissue. about 2016. And so he kind of sighs and gasps and goes back and keeps on looking. I go through the rest of that box. Oh, Led Zeppelin 3. Okay, this is promising. Feels awful light. No record. No record, no inner sleeve. It doesn't like anything ever resided there. Go through the box a little further. There's Doors, Waiting for the Sun. No record. None. Go through a little bit further. Keep on going. Go to the front of the next box. You got a Led Zeppelin 2 sitting there in the front. You open it, beat. Like somebody took a lawnmower to it. It was terrible. So I set that off to the side and keep on going through. Pull out a Bags and Train. Okay. Clearly an original pressing. Okay. Pull out the record, The Master, John Coltrane, which was, of course, was a, like a compilation of sort put out by Prestige years later on the Tried and Blue label. Either way about it, not Bags and Train. So you can't sell Bags and Train with The Master by John Coltrane in it. You can't be done. You can't sell it. The two individually with everything that they require, obviously you get good money for them. But separate, nothing, Nathan, nada. So we meet up in the middle. And he's looking at me. I said, man, have you found anything? He goes, man, these are terrible. He goes, I haven't found anything. He goes, every time I think I got a good record, it's either beat to everything or there's no record in it. I told him, I said, same, man. Same. I said, I found you one. And I did. And it's a Doors self-titled original mono pressing. The brown label. The whole works. Cover, probably VG. Give me a little stain up there in the right center. No splits. And the record's in VG Plus. It'll play. Probably a $50 record. Probably. But that's the only one through those boxes that I can hand Dillon. As long as I've been doing business with Dillon, and as long as I've known him, I know what he's going to be looking for. And that was the only one I could find where I'm like, okay, I'm confident he's going to want to sell this one. But that's going through a room with about 4,000 records in it. And so he kind of just shakes his head and he goes, yeah, Chris, he goes, if you go on the shelves over there, he goes, there's some jazz over there. He goes, I don't know what's good and what's not, but pulled a Miles Davis out that don't have a Miles Davis record in it. It's got something else in it. And he goes, but they're over there. I'm like, okay. So I go digging through those, and I'll show you guys in a minute what it is I came up with. But anyway, so we go to the second room, and before we even walk into the second room, Dillon tells me, he goes, yeah, there's no way I'm buying this. I told him, I said, dude, I knew 3 boxes in, you wasn't buying this. He's like, man, even if this guy gives them to us, even if he says, hey, I just don't want them in my house anymore, that's 10,000 records we've got to load up in the 90-degree sun and price the 10 records that are worth selling and take them all the way back to my shop and unload them. And the ones that aren't any good have got to be loaded back up again and dropped off at Goodwill or sold in bulk to somebody who hopefully just desperate to pad their record collection. It's just not worth it. It's not worth the time and the labor. We've already filled up my truck with gas twice. It takes about $60 to fill my truck up. We spent like $120 in gas. So anyway, we walk in the room and Dillon's, total Dillon, polite, kind, everything. He's like, I got to tell you, man. He goes, I'm not really that impressed with what I'm looking at. He said, you told me I was coming down here to look at 20,000. He goes, you've only got about half that. He says, you told me that, we're coming down to look at, Pink Floyd's full discography and Led Zeppelin's full discography and Metallica's full discography original presses. Is like the only Metallica that was in there was Master of Puppets and quickly spotted reissue. He goes, I got to tell you, man, I can't see it. I don't think I'm going to be buying anything. And the guy seemed really defensive at first. And he was like, hey, man, if it ain't for you and everything like that. And Dillon's like, well, you can tell. I mean, he was lied to. The man calls him, tells him, I've got all of this. And, plain and simple, you just lied to. He shot the bull in Dillon's ear for an hour and a half. And then you get there, and the best record in every box is promptly stationed in the front. Like, the very first record, Metallica. The very first record, Pink Floyd. The very first record, Doors. The very first record, Led Zeppelin. And I can't help, neither one of us can help but think that he did it deliberately. So we call him out on it. And he's like, well, those are the records I listen to the most, so I want to keep them closest to the front. I got to tell you guys, it didn't look like the guy ever spent any time in that room listening to records. Just, it was too cluttered. It was no room. The equipment didn't, had shit stacked all over it. And so, I mean, if you're trying to get to your turntable frequently, you're not going to have a bunch of shit stacked all over top of it. Same for your receiver and everything else. I mean, who wants to move 30 some odd doodads to listen to a record? Nobody. Nobody. So we didn't come right out and call bull on them, but we're both looking at each other calling bull. Like, there's no way, dude. You were hoping we would walk in, take your word for it, and do a blind buy and just start loading up records all the way to get back to Matthews, South Carolina, to Dillon's shop, and realize we were screwed. Nah, man. My boy don't do business that way. I don't do business that way. We're gonna look, if we're gonna give you that kind of money, which we're not gonna disclose, if he's gonna give you that kind of money, you're gonna look at every record. So we go in the second room, and Dillon's like, okay, I'm gonna look through what you got here. And the guy comes out, and to his credit, he did save us this time. He goes, well, if you didn't like what you saw in that other room, you're certainly not going to like what you saw in this room. And so immediately we looked at each other like, okay, like, all right. And so, I kind of just spoke up. I said, I saw a handful that I'd be interested in if you're okay with selling me just a few. If you're okay without us, taking 10,000 records home, if you're okay with just selling a few to us. And I remembered, I found that doors for Dillon that I knew, he can sell that. So he was like, yeah, man, take your time, look around. I'm down here in the basement, which is okay. All right, cool. At least he's not, kicking us out of his house because he's butthurt because we didn't buy 10,000 records. Okay, so we go in there and pick through. This is what I come up on. Pharoah Sanders, Jewels of Thought. I've wanted this one for years. Mysteriously, it's in good condition. Got that gatefold, no splits, no shoes, no problems. Impulse spine intact. Everything's great on it. And, I picked that out like, okay, I don't know what this guy's going to want for it, but if it's reasonable, I'll take that home with me. Next up, Jimmy Smith at the organ, with Lou Donaldson, Kenny Burrell, and Art Blakey, Volume 1. It's a great record. I've always wanted a first press. I've kind of held out on it. But, as a seasoned Blue Note collector like myself, I can take one look, dead giveaway, and the two matrix codes here, and dead giveaway, you automatically know it's a Liberty pressing, which is fine. They're fine. Not knocking them, and you get them substantially cheaper. I've got a bunch of Liberty pressings. Blue label, white B, a little dusty. One round through my spin clean, it'll be fine. Haven't been a chance to do that yet. It's been a busy couple of days. And the Leroy Vinegar Sextet, Stereo Records in association with Contemporary, Leroy Walks. It's a good one. Leroy Vinegar on the bass, Victor Feldman on the vibra harp, Gerald Wilson on trumpet, Teddy Edwards on tenor, Carl Perkins on piano, and Tony Baisley on the drums. It's a good record. It's not, one that's, oh my God, mind-blowing. But hey, it's a good record. It was one that I was more than happy when I picked it up. It's like, I'll give this guy $5 or $10 for it if he wants it. Why not? Next up, and the last of the records that I was comfortable taking home for myself, George Strait, Something Special. And Dillon made fun of me on his YouTube video yesterday on the way home, like, George Strait, what a heater here. Dillon's not a country kind of guy at all. Whereas me, I love George Strait. So, and this one's got the chair on it, and Haven't You Heard, which is a great song. Anyway, I had recently gifted my copy of Something Special to Mike Guitar Player 07, buddy, if you're paying attention. I had seen a copy in a shop when I went out digging before I'd sent him the box. I had seen a copy, and I told myself, yeah, well, I've already got that. And then I get on the way back home, I'm like, oh, shit. It's like I had told Mike I'd pick up George Strait for him if I saw it. So I forgot about it. But then I was like, okay, well, I know it's there, and it's going to be there. So I'll just send him my copy, and the next time I make it back up to that shop, I'll buy that copy. Well, I haven't made it back up to that shop. So it's still sitting in that bin, no down, for $5. But anyway, it's all right, Mike. I'll replace my copy. This one's still in the shrink, but I think. Oh, I've already taken that off. Shit, I usually like to do that for you guys. Anyway, you guys know how much I love shrink. Anyway, so those are the four I found. And then I found the Doors original press mono for Dillon. So let's just say we were to put a value on it. Let me spitball this for you guys. This Pharoah Sanders is probably worth 30 bucks. Probably, I'd say so. Probably 30 bucks. This Jimmy Smith at the Oregon's Liberty Press, maybe 25. It's in good condition, minus that chip there. So let's just, to be nice, we'll call it 25. 55. This Leroy Vinegar Sextet tops 10 bucks. Tops 10 bucks. So let's call it 65. And this George Strait, only because it was produced, only because it was released in an era where vinyl was dying out and CDs were really booming. I'd say 10 tops. I'd say, but that's probably being polite. Actually, 5's probably more like it. Let's just call it 75 bucks that I have here in this stack for me. That Doors original mono that I put in the hands of Dillon, I know he can sell for 50. If it was in, the cover was in slightly better condition, maybe a little more, but he can sell it for 50. So that's $125 worth of records, essentially, that we go to dig through 20,000, which is 10,000 to get. Yeah. To say that we were both disappointed is a massive understatement, but we're standing here with this guy. We're trying to salvage something out of it, both of us still being polite. Obviously, good old Southern boys like us can't help ourselves. Even when we feel like we're being screwed, we still can't help but at least try to be polite. Anyway, and I'm like, okay. So I hand my records to him. I'm like, you know, for a fair price, what do you want for them? And I'm thinking, if this guy overshoots me at all on the price, I'm leaving them all here. I'll find them again someday. And he hands them back to me. He says, I tell you what, take them home for free since you guys drove all the way out here for nothing. I'm like, okay, that's nice of you. And it is. Sir, if you're watching, you never mentioned whether or not you knew me from YouTube. You mentioned it about Dillon, but if you ever see this, that was nice of you. I appreciate that. And tells Dillon the same thing about the Doors. You know, take it. You guys come all the way out here. And we shake hands. We part ways, and all the way back home, obviously, we're talking about how disappointed we are. But anyway. So before we had left that day, here's another thing. I meant to lead off with this, actually. But anyway, you guys know I don't organize my videos worth shit. Anyway. Here I am, knocking stuff over. I totally won't edit this, you guys know that. Alright. Before we left, Dillon had asked me a few days before we were going out on this big dig through 20,000 records. He had sent me a few pictures of jazz records, as has kind of always been our custom. Asked me if I was interested in any of them. And this was right before his pop-up last week, actually. And I told him I was. I said, yeah. I said, I'd be interested in them. I named them out. And he goes, okay, good. I'll hold them for you. And I'm totally not expecting him to hold them for me. I'm just, because, I mean, he's got a pop-up coming up. He's got a shop to open, so I'm not expecting that. And I sent him a message back, like, you sure, man? You don't want to, make some money off of those? He's like, you're letting me borrow your truck for the day. Least I can do. So, get there, we load up the trailer and everything, and he just hands me these. About Bill Evans Trio with Symphony Orchestra. Basically, anything Bill Evans for jazz fans, honestly, is worth having. It's on Verve. Gatefold doesn't sound like it's been opened too many times, as you guys heard that little crisp click there. Black Verve label. Little dust, but pretty clean. Next up, it was one I was, really particularly interested in out of the group, was Here is Phineas, the piano artistry of Phineas Newborn Jr. For a lot of you guys, probably aren't familiar with Phineas Newborn Jr., but a lot of the great pianists in jazz history consider this guy to be among the top upper echelon of great pianists in jazz history. He just didn't get the acclaim, he didn't get the kudos. I mean, he didn't record on Blue Note, some other stuff, but some stains and whatnot on the back, but still, that green and blue Atlantic label. I think very highly of Phineas Newborn Jr., and I've wanted to get his records, and this was the first time I'd actually had a chance to have one, so thank you, Dillon. I appreciated it. And the Hawk Swings, Coleman Hawkins. You guys, if you know anything about jazz, are no doubt familiar with Coleman Hawkins, at least a little bit. Always solid records. This is on Crown Records. So he hands me these three, and Thad Jones plays on this, Coleman Hawkins plays on this, George DeVivier, Eddie Costa, and Vibes Ozzie Johnson on drums. But I'm expecting to pay for these, and he's like, you know what, that's your penance for the day for helping me out. And I'm like, okay, he's expecting me to help him load 20,000 records, and I'm expecting to load 20,000 records. So it turns out basically I got those records for my truck and my company, because I would have hated for Dillon to drive 2.5 hours back home after that by himself. That would sucked. So we don't want to waste the trip. So he was asking about record stores in the area. He's like, what about Cabin Floor? I'm like, yeah, Cabin Floor is pretty close by. And he Googles their hours or whatever, and they're closed on Monday. Okay. Quick plug for you, Dillon. I've talked to my boy Dillon. Dillon says when you go to Noble Records in Matthews, North Carolina, you're not going to have to worry about them being closed on a Monday. My boy wants to make sure his shop is open for guys like me, for guys like some of you who work rotating shifts and everything, who have days off during the week. So if you're off on a Tuesday, you can go to the shop and know you can get yourself some records. Noble Records will be open. You can count on it. You don't have to go to Google the hours and check. So anyway, he's like, okay, well, damn, what else is there around here? I'm like, well, there's Horizon Records. And he's like, okay, Horizon Records. So we go there, we throw it in. Horizon Records is probably the record store in South Carolina that's been open the longest, I'd imagine. They've been open since 1975. Really friendly people. Got a nice restaurant next door. Always good stuff there. I always leave with something. And so I go through the jazz section, and I probably had 6 or 7 records in my hand. But so I go through the jazz section, and I got 6 or 7 records in my hands, and knowing fully that I'm gonna, decrease that. I'm a lot more selective than I used to be. So I go put back all but one, and the only one that I keep in my hand is this Don Bird in Gigi Grease Jazz Lab on Columbia. This is a great hard bop record. There was a shop nearby that had it not too long ago, but I didn't have the time to get up there and check it out. They had it. They sent me reminders that they had it, but if you can't get up there, you can't get up there. And so I couldn't get up there. So I was really thrilled when I thumbed through the Donald Byrd section, and here this is. What's interesting about this, aside from how freaking great a record it is it's got Donald Byrd listed as Don Byrd, which is, guys, correct me if you know better than me, but I don't, and I know a lot about jazz. I think this might be the only time he's credited as Don Byrd. But either way about it, they could credit him as whatever they want to credit him as. This is a killer hard bop record. It really is. I would go as far as to say it's essential, and most people don't even know about it. But Donald Byrd's on the trumpet, Gigi's on the alto, Tommy Flanagan's on the piano, except being replaced by Wade Leggy in Blue Concept, and Wendell Marshall's on the bass, and Art Taylor's on the drums. Anything Art Taylor is on is essential. So Jazz Lab, and I got it for $15, and I know you guys love looking at the labels, and I know that I love showing them to you. Splat Owl, Columbia 6i, first mono. A few little marks on it, but $15, nothing I can't play right through. So yeah, original mono, can't wait to jump on it. So then we look, Dillon Steele, he walks out of that shop with nothing too. I mean, he had a nice conversation with the guy who was running the store, but he leaves out of there with nothing too. So again, I take my boy down there to get 20,000 records, and he still, as of this moment, has 1. So then he's like, okay, well, what else? I'm like, there's just Pharmacy Records, but I don't hear that many good things about it. He's like, okay. I'm like, but it's in the area, bro. Let's go. We got time. So we go, and we walk in, and I've been in thrift stores with better record selections. Sorry to put you on blast, Pharmacy Records, but I don't see how a lot of these record stores stay open selling the junk that they sell. You go into Noble Records in Matthews, North Carolina on October 5th, starting from that day forward, you're not going to have to worry about that, I promise. You'll never walk in that shop and dig through 7,000-8,000 records and think, man, this is all junk. Oh, I'm never coming back here again. I promise you that won't happen. I know my boy. That won't happen. No chance. So, still, nothing. So then we go into Spartanburg to meet up with our boy, Corey. Dillon had made a deal to trade some records with Corey. Huge trade, really beneficial for both of them. And so we go meet him up, and Corey has actually given me a duplicate of the Bob Seger system. It's not an original press. Original pressings are tough to find. But it is a third man reissue, which means it's going to be good. But Corey had 2 of them, so he was nice enough to just give me his one, so that was cool. Not very many rock records I still listen to, but I love early Seger. Apparently, though, Seger doesn't like early Seger, so don't count on too many massive reissues being rolled out. Anyway, so all that's done, and we're heading back, and we just basically, at some point, you just have to laugh. And so we kind of just laughed and joked and, did a YouTube video on the way back. And I got to tell you, and I think he and I will agree on this, is, man, we were both really bummed to drive all the way out to BFE, South Carolina for 20,000 records to find 10,000 records, 5 of which were worth a shit. That was a bummer. We were both very, very bummed and very pissed off for a minute. And I know that, even though we hit it well. On the way back, 2.5 hour drive, we couldn't help but laugh about it. And we'll definitely look back at this for years, no doubt, and laugh. But anyway, believe it or not, that was the first big dig that Dillon and I had ever gone on together. We've known each other for a decade, and I'm sure that shocks a lot of you guys, because, but first time, and it won't be the last time. So stay tuned. Before I wrap this video up, I do want to talk about 2 mega grails that Dillon put in my hands. The one that's the most rare is the one that I'm going to show you first. Hank Mobley, Blue Note, 1568. This is a holy cow, can buy a car selling this record. That's what that is. In VG Plus, you can buy a decent car selling this record. In VG Plus. Unfortunately, this one's not in VG Plus, unfortunately. But I wouldn't have been able to afford it if it was, even coming from my boy. But as you guys can see, it's some pretty significant wear. It's some splits, which I can repair the splits, but I can't repair the stains and all the other stuff. I can't do anything about that. But a lot of people would be like, why would you even want that? Well, because when you're a guy like me who never thought you could hope to attain Hank Mobley 1568 original press. But here's the kicker. You see how that looks, right? You see how that looks? Okay, the wax also not perfect, but the labels are intact. They're good. Get in there, see, it's not that bad. It's, it ain't ideal either. It's probably G+. Probably G+. It plays all the way through with no issue. Some surface noise, but it's not that audible during the louder numbers. But still, it's still a record that could have gone for probably a G if the cover had been fully intact and in good condition. But obviously not going to tell you guys what I'm paying for it. That's between me and my boy. But thank you, man. I never thought I'd own Hank Mobley 1568. I didn't see it. I've got a Classic Records pressing. I thought that was going to be my copy. Oh, okay. And you guys will remember our videos from, let's call it a month back, where we go to the record fair, and, I had blown my load at, the first couple of booths that I go to buying jazz records. Dillon, of course, is, more seasoned, more in the game in terms of stuff like that. He's going to shop around. And he gets to this booth, and when he get to this booth, I actually get to this record first. And I look at it, and unfortunately, the price is fair on it, by the way. But I didn't have it. Had that been the first record I saw, I would have left out with only that record. Because the cash I brought in my pocket that day was exactly what I could afford to spend, no more, no less. So anyway, I pick it up and I look at it. And Dillon, I guess, sees the look on my face, and he comes over and I show it to him like that. And he's like, whoa, you gonna get it? I'm like, dude, I don't have the money. And the guy behind the counter hears our, convo, and he's like, "Hey man, make me an offer." I told him, I said, "Man, I can't make you a fair offer." I said, "I've spent the money I came here to spend, unfortunately." And he's still like giving me his card and everything. "Oh, come on, man, we'll make a deal." And I'm like, "I don't think you understand my finances, man. I don't have it." So I kind of just walk away from it. Like, okay. And then I see Dillon pick it up, and Dillon starts going to work on this guy. And without naming specific finances, as soon as I see that Dillon's serious about the deal and he's not just playing, I walk over to our boy David that we were there with, and I said, "Watch, he's going to get this record, and he's going to give it a substantial steal." And as soon as the guy agrees to the deal, Dillon turns and looks at me and goes, big thumbs up and everything like that. I'm like, "Oh, you are the master, bro." And sure enough, he ended up paying half what this guy had on the tag. So it's an unbelievable, remarkable steal. Well, there's been a few of you in the comments, Steve Carlson, if you're watching, that taunted me about this record. About, "I know what you don't have," and everything like that. I'm like, stay tuned. Anyway, turns out Dillon basically grabbed this one because he knew I wanted it. And he saw how bad I wanted it. He knew I couldn't afford it. So he grabbed it up at the deal, and he was like, "Hey, I'll hold it for you till you're ready." So I got to the point where I was ready. I traded him a good box full of good classic rock he could sell, and here it is. Grant's first stand. Grant Green, Babyface Willett on the organ, Ben Dixon on drums. You know what Grant plays. And she's beautiful. Original mono pressing. Anyway. Wow. Yeah. See, the label looks sweet. Great condition. I can't wait to throw it on. Dillon, I think, spun it 2 or 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, because he knew he was going to only have it for a little while, and, then he was going to get it to me. And I can't tell you, buddy, how much that means to me that you would do something like that, because, you could have just looked at me, knew I couldn't afford it, and we could have just let that be, because I hadn't accepted it. Like, maybe I'll get it again someday. But you didn't. You scooped it up for me. You held it for me until I had, was ready to cover it, and now it's sitting in the man cave. One of many records I wouldn't have without you, man. I got to tell you, I'm really bummed out that we didn't come home with 20,000 records to stock your shop yesterday. Really bummed. But it was great to spend half a day with you. It was awesome. You're one of my very best friends in this world, and it was great to finally have a chance, because we're both busy family men, to spend a day together. That was awesome. And I hope that just because this shop's opening up, but that doesn't mean that's the last time. I doubt it will be. There will be other adventures next time. Damn it, we're doing a video where we're bringing you guys 20,000 records. It's funny, it's because on the way down we were talking about, hey, when we get back to the shop, you have time to shoot a video with me where we show everybody what we brought. We were really excited about it, guys. We just knew this was it. So we didn't get to do that. That's why you guys got that like 6 or 7 minute video on the way back home yesterday. But thanks for the great records, bro. Thanks for the great time. And, thanks for being my damn friend, man. You overwhelm me every single day. You're an awesome guy. And cheers to the soon-to-be best goddamn record store in North or South Carolina. Noble Records, October 5th. Be there, be square. You'll meet, Dillon. You'll meet me. If you've already met both of us, that's great. Several of us, a lot of us in the vinyl community will be there. Plane tickets aren't that expensive for some of you thinking, "Oh, I'd love to go, but I live in Kentucky." Get on a plane. Come on, man. Come on, go. We'd love to see you guys there. October 5th, be there. Be square. Matthews, North Carolina. Noble Records, coming straight to you. Until next time, until next video, where I will no doubt plug Noble Records again. Keep dropping that needle, you guys.